Hiya, check. Hiya, welcome to my compound life. I am Jonathan. This is a channel where we build assets, we build habits, and of course, we build freedom. That will be financial freedom, time freedom for you, me, and anyone else that watches my video. So good to see you guys today. Hang on, let me just maneuver my car. Okay. So it's gonna be a busy day for me, and I just thought maybe it makes sense for me to drop a video. I'm unfortunate not in my usual setting for my Bitcoin daily video because I'm busy, right? I'm simply busy today. We need to head out today, go to church, dinner plan, and everything else. So we'll be busy and won't be available to access my computer to show you guys a nice graph or whatever, right? But I think because the whole situation with Bitcoin right now, I think it has been pretty fearful for the past 48 hours. I just thought maybe it makes sense to drop a video just to make sure everyone's okay, let you guys know what the situation is with Bitcoin. Certainly I kind of gone through a lot of the news this morning, which by the way, I'm in the UK, so probably it's like your late afternoon in Asia, or very in the early morning or middle of the night in the US. So I've checked the news earlier that there isn't much happening, right? There isn't much happening. And somehow yesterday around 4 p.m. my time, right, which is around, I think, morning-ish in the US, essentially we just saw heaps of sell-off for Bitcoin and for the rest of crypto. I think I've read it's one of the few top liquidation for Bitcoin and crypto, right? And even I think for I think, you know, so it's not a great site to look into. And I kind of tried to check on the news whether there were any announcement that came out during that time that leads on to, you know, such huge sell-off. But to be honest, I couldn't find anything. It just essentially means a few things, right? Usually, you know, when we're going through weekend, especially knowing that we are heading into a government shutdown, right? It's official. We are already in government shutdown in the US. I mean, not my government. I'm in the UK, right? So the fact that you guys, or portion of you guys, are heading into a government shutdown, it's a period where a lot of investor traders will be, you know, waiting and see, right? And in that case, it's a very thin liquidity period. And this is where a lot of the market makers, exchanges will try to come in and manipulate to, you know, to take out the longs. And that there's actually a lot of longs out there. There's still a lot of people having the expectation that the top is not in yet, right? Because there are so much bullishness around that are saying that, hey, Bitcoin, it's an elongated cycle. It will continue to go up. Don't be afraid, yada, right? You get big analysts that are jumping out. You get BlackRock, you know, Larry Fink, everyone coming out to say that, hey, Bitcoin is going to whatever price, right? No doubt Bitcoin will eventually get to that kind of estimation, but somehow I don't feel it will be on this specific cycle, right? So that's why I felt, you know what, with all of this going on, I just want to make sure that you guys continue to stay strong, right? I know some of you guys could be your first cycle, because I can see in some of the comment section. I'm actually unsure, you know, what's your average for coming into the first cycle, right? Because I actually knew quite a few friends, many friends, right? They came in onto the first cycle, and many also went into gold too, right? So very likely they're kind of bought in Bitcoin when Bitcoin was at around 110,000, right? Or bought into gold when gold was around 4,600, 4,800, right? And then look where we are right now, right? So everything seemed to have sold off, right? At least for Bitcoin, I don't think it was due to all of the earlier news, right? So a lot of the news were US government shutdown, right? I think everyone's afraid, knowing that the last shutdown that lasted for approximately 35 days, right? And essentially Bitcoin went down tremendously during that period, right? And then there were news about Kevin Walsh, right? So a lot of speculation were around Kevin Walsh. He will be very hawkish. Maybe not hawkish in a way that it would be bad, but at least, right, at least he may still offer some rate cuts, right? So there's a video that's been flying around on social media, like a press Q&A with President Donald Trump on Air Force One. So it's one of them video that you can't quite hear what Trump said, but he was saying that he's actually looking forward for Kevin Walsh to apply more rate cut, right? But I've been letting you guys know since last year, late last year, I've been constantly remind all of you guys, right? Don't let any of the bullishness on social media to encourage you to buy more, or to, you know, to FOMO in, especially FOMO in, right? Because until we can officially hear a rate cut, right? Plus, until we can officially see a lot of quantitative easing, that's money printing, right? For which Kevin Walsh is a person that doesn't really like quantitative easing, right? So very likely how things play out for 2026 might be, we might get the rate cut, right? But we won't get enough of the quantitative easing, the money printing, that can lead us back into another dead cat bounce or another all-time high for Bitcoin, like everyone else said, like, you know, the elongated cycle, the super cycle, right? So I want you guys to bear that in mind. Historically, right? This year has always for Bitcoin at least been meant to be a bearish year for Bitcoin. Okay, so the whole bearishness will start sometime in November and continue for about a year. And historically, the best time to accumulate, to start to accumulate Bitcoin will be approximately 500 days before the next halving event, right? So that would be the Bitcoin halving, right? So as a reminder, guys, we are officially, I've checked the figure this morning when I came out, we are approximately 801 days away from the next Bitcoin halving event, right? So if the best time to get into Bitcoin, essentially that marks the bottom of Bitcoin. We are approximately about 300 days away from that accumulation zone, right? So as long as you don't tell me you're on leverage, as long as you are part of us, the hodler of Bitcoin, the hodl gang for Bitcoin, you'll be fine, right? That means you will be okay, right? And I think in the comment section, some viewers are saying, hey, it's the best time to enter right now. Bitcoin is on a discount. How much are we? $78,000 right now. I think $78,000 is good price, but potentially, right, if we've still got another few more months left, right, potentially there can be further room to drop. Okay, so that's what I'm kind of anticipating. And if that's the case, right, maybe we'll get back down to about the 200 weeks moving average. I haven't checked that, but I think the last time I've mentioned that will be about $55,000 to $60,000, right? Will Bitcoin drop to that level? I don't know, right? However, if you kind of, by the way, this video, right, it's not financial advice. Do your own research. I'm just planning out the different scenario on my mind on how I would approach it, right? Because number one, right, how I would definitely approach it, I would set aside some money to dollar cost average from the months of November onwards, right? Because I reckon that would be a good time to buy Bitcoin, because historically that marks the bottom for Bitcoin. Or at least if we're not exactly at the bottom, right, at least if you spread out your buy for approximately 100 days, 200 days, you somehow will catch the bottom, right? And then you essentially won't buy in at too high of a price, right? But of course, I'm also giving you some scenario that there's a possibility that Bitcoin can actually drop to the 200 weeks moving average, okay? So not 200 days, but 200 weeks moving average. And that's somewhere around $55,000 to $60,000. And that, for now, maybe would be a major support at that price range, right? I'm not saying that will be the bottom. Whether we'll hit that as a bottom or will there be more bottom, I don't know. But at least that would be an immediate attractive price that I might DCA in quite hard, right? But somehow, I think there are also technical analysis, I think, drawn by different people actually. Ben Calvin, yeah, I think it was Ben Calvin. He's actually indicating there could be some bullishness for Bitcoin, and this bullishness will not be a super cycle type of bullishness, okay? This could easily just be a, how do I say it, dead cat bounce bullishness, right? So he's indicating that potentially, I mean, looking at Bitcoin price, technical analysis, as well as the RSI, Relative Strength Index. In terms of the Relative Strength Index now, it's very, very low, right? It's close to the bottom, okay? But at the same time, the price of Bitcoin is around 78,000. I think from how he charted it, it can potentially drop to about maybe down to another few thousand, maybe 71, 72,000. And then similar to some of the price action for some of the technology stock like Google and Nvidia, right? They could potentially be a huge bounce upwards because RSI essentially showcase it's the bottom and there's a huge reversal after, right? A lot of buyers would probably want to step in. So there could be another of such scenario that can potentially play out. But personally speaking, I kind of felt whatever the scenario, these are essentially just dead cat bounce. If you are fine to hold Bitcoin for, to hodl it with strong conviction, ignore what I've just said. These are all just short-term noises, by the way, right? Because I'm talking about price action, but a lot of viewers that I come to my understanding, they simply just have a hodl bag and they just want to hodl Bitcoin for a long time, right? So whatever I've just said just now, these are just short-term noises, right? However, I do understand there are some viewers, that might have bought in at around 100,000, right? Bitcoin now is at around 77,000. And holding through such volatility must be painful. I've been there, right? I've been there. And the only thing that I can let you guys know, right? So we'll just have to hodl, DCA in to bring down our average. If, financially you can do that, right? And, if you continue to have job, continue to have salary on a monthly basis, continue to DCA in, bring down your average so that by the time when we get out of the bear cycle, usually for Bitcoin, it's going to lead on to 3 years of bull cycle, right? And if that's the case, right, we are only 9 more months, right? That's sometime in October. We're almost in Feb, right? Well, November, that would mark the bottom of Bitcoin. That would be kind of like the entry for Bitcoin accumulation. So approximately 9 months, 10 months left. And panic selling right now, if you bought in Bitcoin at 100,000, panic selling at 77,000, you're losing a lot of money, right? You might as well just hodl strong, try to DCA in, right? And somehow I felt if you want to DCA, right, unless you're someone like me that, pays a lot of attention on price action, that checks on the price on a daily basis, right? You can actually consider about DCA later this year, like towards Q4 of this year, rather than, doing your monthly DCA starting from now, because I do have a sense that Bitcoin might be heading even lower. And the next target could probably be around 70,000 and then followed by, 55, 60,000. It can, no doubt, potentially drop to about 30,000. You never know. So that would be kind of like an accumulation of our lifetime if that's the case. So bear that in mind. That's how, how things are going. And I just felt, especially the ones that are going through your first cycle, right? This will be the short-term pain that we'll all have to go through, right? Because Bitcoin cycle is approximately 4 years, guys. By the time it peaks, from that all-time high, it takes about 1 full year to get to the bottom of Bitcoin, and that usually marks the bear market, right? And we've been through almost 4 months of the bear market, right? And then we've only got a few more months left, right? So in that case, I mean, as long as you have strong conviction on Bitcoin and tell yourself, I want to stay the full cycle and experience it and see how far how far Bitcoin can take me, it only takes about 4 years, right? So unlike gold or silver, it takes many, many long years to get back to another all-time high, right? Like 10 years, 12 years, 15 years or so, right? For Bitcoin, it's like clockwork. Bitcoin halving, it's almost programmed, hard-coded every 4 years, right? So that's why I just felt, guys, stay calm, have some conviction. We already informed you guys, we are going through a bear cycle. So that's why things are playing out as it is, okay? And I think apart from that, there isn't a lot of news that I can cover today, because I think price action itself is the big news. And I think somehow Monday market open, I think soon when the futures market open, in a couple of hours time, there will be a massive sell-off in Asia, followed by in Europe, followed by in the US. And market open on Monday will not be good, right? So this is where sometimes, I mean, like I'm trying to rotate more into some AI stock, like trying to pump up my Tesla back. So this will be a time that I pay a lot of attention and have to make that quick decision to decide whether I want to buy the dip, right? Because I think Monday open, government shutdown, continue shutting down, it's not going to look good at all in the equity market, as well as Bitcoin and crypto. I think ETF will have another massive sell-off, right? I mean, every week, every day, I kind of report on the ETF data. You guys can definitely see ETF buying are getting weaker, and then followed by more outflow versus inflow, and then now even cascade down to Solana ETF, right? And even Solana now has been more outflow than inflow. So I think you guys kind of get the gist of the market. But yeah, I think could be a time to accumulate, not Bitcoin for sure, but if you are on weekly, daily, or whatever DCA schedule that you have, just ignore me, right? You know, I'm just talking about short-term price action. I've got a hodl bag that I'll never touch, I'll never sell for a much more longer period of time. So that's how I'm approaching it too. But yeah, I think just trying to calm all of us down in this current situation. So hang in there, guys. Just stick through the bear cycle and check out my other video. I'll actually get into a lot more details about the cycle, the rhythm, etc. And somehow, if you are in this, then you might as well just stick around for the full cycle and not panic sell. Okay. That's it for now, guys. Let me know what you guys are thinking. I hope none of you guys are panic selling, right? There can be potentially another dead cat bounce. So here's the thing, right? So there can potentially be dead cat bounce coming, like how Benjamin Coven, indicates it, right? If that's the case, if you are already on profit, maybe you got in 70,000, right? The dead cat bounce can get to about 85,000, 90,000, right? maybe you can want to take some profit and get out and wait until the next accumulation window, which I think, which by the way is never guaranteed. If it does play out that way, the next accumulation window will be sometime in November this year, right? However, if your average is pretty high, around 100,000, I just thought, don't sell, don't panic sell. It will eventually get back to that price level. But what you might want to consider is how do you bring down your average, and re-entering sometime towards end of year might probably make sense, right? If you're someone that cannot handle volatility, cannot stomach the fact that Bitcoin would drop to about $50,000, right? 55, 60,000, or even $30,000, right? So, and then financially you cannot quite handle this, right? And somehow you are kind of breaking even. Maybe selling off makes sense because the bear market will continue to go lower. That will be approximately few more months, right? Maybe getting out of the just before we hit the bottom of the bear market makes sense for you too, because you can probably re-enter sometime in November this year. But very likely, I have a few friends that got into Bitcoin, they panic sell, and then they said they'll re-enter during the accumulation window again. They never come back. I think volatility would just frighten them away, and they will never ever come back to Bitcoin. So bear that in mind, guys. So let me know in the comment section what do you guys think, and then drop a like, hit subscribe. Let me know where you guys are watching from. It's always good to hear from viewers. And I will see you guys all in the next video. Have a great Sunday, guys. Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.